Conference will now be recorded.
Did you read us copy the public hearing?
Today. Oh, good. I'm so used to doing it the other way. Hold on.
Erase.
I have, hold on a second. I have lost that part of the script because we are on a sequence. Give me just a moment, I'm sorry. Sorry, folks. Wait, okay, what do I need to read back in? I don't have anything.
The board is now returning to formalization and
I did that and that's why I did it when you were on the other end of it. Okay. The board is returning to public session. It is 10:43 a.m. This concludes the executive session for the board of touch therapists. So we'll go ahead and move into our public compliance and start with case 4135.
Case 4135, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation ORS 687.021 sub 1B violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, one violation of OAR 334-040-0010, civil penalty of $8,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4168.
Case 4168, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4136.
Case 4136, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B and a civil penalty of $1,000. I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3991.
case 3991, I move for revocation of the facility permit number 28328.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4159.
Case 4159, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for civil penalty of $3,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4182.
Case 4182, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4156.
Case 4156, I move to dismiss.
I second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4161.
Case 4161, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 11 violations of ORS 687.0211C, one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12, for a total civil penalty in the amount of $13,000.
I second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4150.
Case 4150, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 9 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, 2 violations of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $12,000.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3959.
Case 3959, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 9 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, 1 violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12, and a civil penalty of $11,000.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4207.
Case 4207, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A and a civil penalty of $1,000.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4065.
Case 4065, I move to issue a notice of proposed action of 687.021 sub 1A, 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 1 violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $3,000.
Carol, could you read that OAR violation in again, just for clarity?
Yeah. 1 violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Total civil penalty $3,000.
I second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4213.
Case 4213, I move to approve the facility permit.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4211.
Case 4211, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of unknown counts of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 13, and a civil penalty of $1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3851.
In case 3851, I move to dismiss.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4222.
In case 4222, I move to approve facility permit.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4212.
Case 4212, I move to deny application.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 4223.
It's 4223. We move to approve.
I'm sorry, we got a lag. Could you say that one more time?
We motion to approve application.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to board business. I'm going to turn it over to Director Brewer.
Thank you, Board Chair. I'm going to go through the list of things I have here. First will be our budget financial report, which is attached here, and I always read it in, so I'll be reading from that. I do want to say that our biennium ended June 30th, so we're in the new biennium. At the time when we were writing this report, we were 2 months to the new biennium. At the end of the biennium, I sent our financial information, which is required per law, to DAS Accounting. They received it and had no questions about it. It basically shows all our expenditures and our income for the previous biennium. It's required also to be sent to the governor's office, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate. And none of them had comments on that particular item. We ended the biennium pretty much even, and that's a tall order because we were in the hole there for quite some time through the biennium, based on a lot of factors, mostly employment expenses and a lot of raise and state assessments that we had. We started our audit. We're audited every year for the previous biennium. The audit started on September 16th. It's a very extensive audit that happens every year. It usually lasts a couple of months. So I'm at the beginning of that audit right now. We're being audited by Baker Lilly, which is formerly Moss Adams. They go by Baker Lilly Moss Adams now. It's the accounting firm that most semi-independent boards use in the state of Oregon. They're a multinational or international accounting firm that's been around for many years. They do a really good job. They're very thorough. So that just started. I will be starting at the end of the year our semi-independent board report, which is very extensive. It takes me about 4 months to complete that. And that goes also to the Speaker, the President of the Senate, the Governor's Office, and DAS. That also gets reviewed in committee by the Senate and the House during the next session. So it's a pretty extensive report. It's my life every 2 years for that particular year. So that's coming up. I just wanted to let you know about that. So we are 2 months into the 25-27 biennium, and we have a bank balance of, at that time, at the end of August, $214,000, which represents about 2 months of working capital. Ideally, according to the accountants and the basic standard principles, we should have, accounting principles, we should have 4 to 6 months of working capital. So we're a little behind there. I think that's going to be increasing. I think we're in the right direction, in the positive direction there. Our current income as of August 30th is $235,392, and our total expenditure to date, to that date, was $156,038, a difference of approximately $79,000. We have to note, though, that we have not paid payroll for August. So accounting for payroll, and for those of you that don't know how payroll works in the state of Oregon, right now it's going to change. They do a projected payroll, so the state pays the payroll every month, and then they bill me for the payroll, and then I pay it. But they're sometimes a couple months behind billing me because I got to do all the overtime and accounting and all that type of stuff. So adding that in, we should be about $3,000 on the plus side thus far in the biennium, which we're not negative, so that's positive outlook there. So looking at the attached profit loss statement, you'll see a couple of large expenditures, specifically for state assessments and contract professional services and computer expenses. So what happens is that at the beginning of the biennium, there are certain things that we pay for the year or for the biennium. So we get billed at the beginning of the biennium for like Microsoft 365, for our risk insurance. So our safety insurance from Sept and all that type of stuff. They bill us at the beginning of the biennium. So we have a large amount of expenditures at the beginning of the biennium, but that's not going to continue every month. So you'll see a bunch of expenditures there, July, August, and then maybe small expenditure going out for the rest of the biennium, but it equals out in the end. So I just wanted to let you know that those, $8,000 expenditures at the beginning of the biennium are not going to be $8,000 every month. Any questions about the budget or the finances? Yes.
So I understand, Director Brewer, so after those initial large expenditures that we pay up front for, then we could expect then that $3,000 positive to actually increase considerably in the upcoming months, allowing us to get back to our normal comfort level on our reserve.
Correct.
And then perhaps after that, look forward to the possible position discussion for phone service and things.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, and we've done, we've been, Kayate and I, and actually all the staff, we've been really frugal to try to cut our expenditures. And we're pretty red bones right now. We're always looking for places to cut. So our computer expenses for Microsoft 365, we found that they were overbilling us for phantom certificates, basically. So each one of you that uses Microsoft 365, we get billed for that license, basically. And we're required by the state to use it, so we can't opt out of Microsoft 365. We found out that they were billing us for 4 or 5 more than we needed, and so we were able to cut that out and save us a couple $1,000s anyway from that. So we're always looking, Kayate and I and the staff, we're always looking for ways to cut that down. So, any other questions about the finances?
Are we, in the big picture, are we seeing trends improving or staying stagnant in our renewals and?
Improving.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we're recovering. We took a big hit during COVID, as did most licensing agencies within the state, not only for expenses, but we took a big hit because we had licensees that moved out of state and a lot of licensees that went inactive because they didn't want to practice during COVID, which I understand. And it took a while for that to sort of rebound. I think some people sort of decided that maybe they weren't going to continue to practice or have limited practice, or so it took a while for that to recover. But looking at the statistics, it looks like we're recovering. We had a 1% growth rate last biennium, which was pretty sad, because previous to that we had like a 20% growth rate. And but I haven't looked at the growth rate for this biennium. I haven't done those stats yet. That'll be part of that CELA report I'm going to be doing. But I can just tell by the numbers that we're definitely improving in that area. So,
Director Brewer, for clarification, the buffering zone that the state wants us to have, that's how we were able to make it through the COVID and not charge late fees.
Absolutely.
And suffer all of the people that moved out of state. So
having that buffer, that working capital buffer, allowed us to make it through. We would have been bankrupt in COVID if we did not have that. And as it stood, it took 3/4 of our reserve money to make it through COVID. But we did the things that the board wanted to do, which was waive late fees, reduce some CD stuff, and you know, we did raise fees for quite some time, and so all of that sort of contributed to that issue, but we don't have that issue anymore. I think we're in recovery right now.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions about the budget before I move on? I'll go to staffing. I wanted to say that, during the summer, when we're a small agency like we are, we have 6 full-time people. We have people that have families and life, and there's vacations and things like that. And we still have the same amount of work, okay? And so I wanted to recognize my staff a little bit for, making it through summer, making it through COVID, making it through the things that they've been through. But I also wanted to say that I received a letter, and I don't often get letters from individuals. I do get phone calls occasionally saying that, they're mad about things. But sometimes people don't take the opportunity to say their things. But this lady reached out and she said that she was having a difficult time with her licensing renewal. And she really said that she appreciated Mitch, Rowena, and Christian, 3 of my staff people, for their compassion and support in helping her renew her LMT license. And I wanted to recognize them for that, because those are things that you don't hear as a board, and I think you should hear more often. So I wanted to just let you know that we received that letter, and she was it was a very good letter. So also during our last all schools meeting, every one of the schools, basically an all schools meeting for anybody that doesn't know what that is, we invite all the school liaisons or all the school administrators to come together and talk about what the trends and things that are going on in massage and it's massage education. But during that meeting, Christian got singled out by these schools, and basically they all told us that the students love him, they love him, he's doing a great job, great communicator, and he's doing a wonderful job. So, when you hear those things, I think it's important that I pass it on to his bosses, right? My boss. So I wanted you guys to know that we're getting that kind of feedback about your staff, your board staff. So any questions about staffing?
Thank you.
I'll move on to board member recruitment. So I received confirmation from the governor's office of executive appointments that a board member candidate has been selected for confirmation. That tentative confirmation date is September 29th. That individual didn't make it in time to make it to this particular meeting, but will be confirmed on the 29th. I think this person's going to be a great fit. I never say a name, just simply because they have until the last minute to back out. So if I say, hey, welcome, our new board member is going to get confirmed, and they say, I'm sorry, I had a family issue or whatever, we have had that happen in the past. But I will say this person is excited. I reached out, spoke to them, and I think will be a great fit with the board. It's an LMT position, so it's an LMT. Was selected by the governor's office to be confirmed by the Senate. And once that, I will be at that confirmation hearing. I try to go to all the confirmation hearings. I haven't missed one, and it happened to be Doug's. But I got in that day anyway. I missed this confirmation hearing, but I had the wrong date. I try to go to all the confirmation hearings, and I'll be at that one. And then the next board meeting, you'll have a new board member, and it should be full. I'm gonna knock on wood, because it's been a long time since we've had a full board. Any questions about our new board member that I can answer?
No, but we haven't had a full board member the whole time, I think.
Yeah,
Or full
a
board.
very long time.
Yeah.
A very long time. We had a difficult time filling Doug's position.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, he's stayed with us. And,
Please stay.
yeah. No, but we had, there's a lot of other issues, so. Any questions about that? I'll move on to our COOP plan. So the COOP plan is a continuity of operations plan, and it's attached at a different portion in, it's right below. The actual COOP plan is in the board packet here. So Governor Kotick issued a directive on January 11th, 2023, requiring state agencies, boards, and commissions to have in place and update annually a continuity of operations plan. So this plan is required to be updated annually, and the updated version is submitted to the Office of Emergency Management by September 30th, 2025. In this case, it's September of every year. Most of the information is taken directly from Workday, things like addresses, emergency contact. So I've updated our COOP plan. I'm requesting the board approve it. Let me tell you a little bit about COOP plans. So the state of Oregon, the governor initially, when she took over, made a mandate for these COOP plans, among other mandates. There's about 12 of them. So the COOP plan went from being this sort of static document, which it still is, but they want to implement it, have it implemented a little bit more and add things to it. I have added things to this particular continuity of operations plan. The idea behind the COOP plan is that if there is a major emergency, how are we going to ensure that we continue operations, we continue to issue licenses, we continue to serve our licensees? So I have to identify as a director what might happen, the building closure or a phone system going out, and sort of determine if it's a small thing, what are we going to do? If it's a large scale thing, what are we going to do? Who are we going to notify and things like that. So I've updated our COOP plan. There might be a few more updates to it after I submit it. I will bring that back to the board because they're going to evaluate it and they might add things that they want in the COOP plan. But it's here for the board to approve or disapprove or have suggestions for or anything like that. So it's for you guys to approve, hopefully, today. Any questions about the COOP plan?
I read it. It looks really straightforward to me.
Yeah, the difficulty, is that we're a small agency and we're very fluid, which means that after COVID, we can move off-site pretty easy, We have that infrastructure to be able to do it. These COOP plans are a great idea if you are ODOT or if you're forestry or one of those gigantic agencies that have 1,000 employees. It's a little more difficult when you're a small agency like myself because it's like,
Sure.
if I'm not there, notify Jeff. If Jeff's not there, notify me. It's like, and so it's a little bit hard to come up with a COOP plan, but it's required. So there it is.
No, I actually think it looks good too. It's, even though it might be scant because of the size of the department, it's a heck of a lot better to have it than not, because we have seen plenty of weather emergencies take some of us out for
Fires.
weeks and fires and the ice storms, and so I think this is helpful. And I suggest board members actually have this downloaded somewhere, because if you say, lose your power for 2 weeks, you need your internet, you need that info. So I would, I'd download this to some computer or print out the important stuff for yourself. Okay, then we just need a vote to accept the COOP plan as presented. Can I get a motion?
Second.
All in favor of accepting the COOP plan as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, the plan is accepted.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff.
You all done, sir?
I'm done, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to give the board the compliance and licensure report for this meeting. Licensure is running well. One thing that I noted the last couple of months is our average license renewal processing time is about 3 weeks, give or take. And this past month, we were getting them done within a week. A lot of that has to do with the LMTs doing their part correctly. That's usually what slows us down. And so a lot of credit to our LMTs and getting their CDs in correctly and properly the first time, recording us follow up. Plus Rowena has gotten back in the saddle and she's really just popping these out. So I wanted to recognize Rowena and her efforts on that, as well as our renewees. we are making plans, we're having discussions and brainstorming, but we're not going too far till we get board input, but we are anticipating rule changes related to the facility permit process. I think we're bringing that up later in our meeting in the future. We're hoping to get the facility permit application process to include a renewal cycle and changing the applicant process to better mirror the initial massage therapist application process, most notably the fingerprinting and full background check sections of that. On that vein, House Bill 3819A, which passed last session, goes into effect in January 26. And of course, there will need to be some new rules and licensing regarding mandatory reporting requirements that has brought up to us. We were thinking, kind of brainstorming into the future, that allowing at the same time or even requiring the continuing education in that area to be added to our rules. And then I believe there is a good portion of discussion regarding what the board has brought to this meeting, or directed us to bring to this meeting regarding the discussion over the BLS version of CPR versus the standard CPR requirements for that. So we've, Director Ruark has written a white paper on that subject to be discussed in the future, but that's something that we have discussed as a group in our staffing. Compliance is designed to predetermination petition. This form and process allows pre-applicants to petition the board for a predetermination regarding any criminal history that they may have. Director Ruark has more detailed information about this in his presentation, and we'll be discussing that more length. Board staff is also awaiting direction from the board regarding House Bill 3819A. There'll be plenty of new and updated rules that will go into effect on January 1, 2026. For example, compliance will require some rules and updates regarding the higher civil penalties, the criminal violations being changed on second offense to a felony status, allowing for the placarding of storefronts to found to be in violations. And so staff has been doing some brainstorming on that and created even some drafts and samples for Director Ruark to review, just in anticipation of the board or a committee working on those in the rules in the future, so that we are hopefully as ready as possible to pivot and get those into place. And as previously mentioned, compliance will also require OAR changes in new language regarding the mandatory reporting requirement, in case there's possible disciplinary action for not reporting, for example. Although we may already have that covered in our rules, just not specific. And as I've discussed at past meetings, Investigator Herbst is retiring in December. He may be the longest current employee with the board, or contractor, or worker. He's going to be sort of missed. He is a workhorse for us, bell cow. Investigator Roloff has moved to Redmond from the Salem area, which gives us great coverage in Redmond, Bend, Sisters, and the surrounding areas, but really hurts us in the Portland and Salem areas. And Investigator Steele is recovering from an illness that prevented her from receiving massages for a while, which of course makes investigating massages difficult. She does have a stack of cases that only involve interviews and like that, which is good. So she continues to work, but it's kind of hampered us a bit. Director Ruark and I met and we discussed different methods we've used in the past to encourage new contractors to come on board. The main way we did this was word of mouth through our old contractors and associates that they had that they would recommend, which was always nice because they know what the job entails and might be good at it. We didn't have much success in that because many of those that were recommended said they had a full plate already and couldn't take on any more work. I reached out to the Oregon Association of Private Investigators and sent them some information, asked them to share that in the newsletter, et cetera. And we didn't get much response from that. So I finally broke down and reached out to BBSSP, who licenses the private investigators. They didn't have an email list that they could provide me legally, but they did give me a mailing list. I went through that and tried to eliminate areas where we didn't need additional coverage. Mostly we need some help in the valley, important areas, anywhere down along the I-5 corridor would be nice. And I sent out old-fashioned letters with information about our potential hiring contractors. And those went out in the mail on Monday.
About how many?
Close to 500. And I've already gotten 20 responses today. So I'm encouraged we're gonna find some people to help us out. It's just now I also think I may have gotten ahead of my own skis sending out that many. But I've already got some responses and they've responded. The letter describes some things that we would like to see in an investigator and describes some of the work that we do so they can have an idea if they want to even seek additional information. And so they've responded while providing some information about themselves and their backgrounds, and I'm very encouraged already. So. That's my report, Chairman.
Excellent.
Any questions?
I have a question about licensure, and I'm not sure if you can answer this or maybe Director Ruark, but after the all schools meeting, was there any feeling about the trends in licensure numbers coming our way based on enrollment?
Yeah, so our licensing numbers are going up. Do you mean through the schools or just in general?
Yeah, what came out of that meeting? Did you feeling like the schools are filling up, the schools have reduced enrollment?
I think we're finding both of those. Some schools reduced half of the classes that they used to have prior to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And also what we're finding, some of the schools told us that they're having a difficult time finding instructors, believe it or not. And so you can't have a big class, you can't continue to grow your classes without quality instructors, right? So I think that the community colleges are filling up and doing well that way. I think some of the other independent schools are recovering, but it's slower. The trend is going up, but it's not a boom, where it was pre-COVID. It's not shooting up to the stars, but it is going up.
Thank you. Okay, if that's it for compliance, we can go ahead and move on to the committee update.
Yeah. So the board asked me, there's been some discussion. So prior to COVID, I'll go back to COVID, we used committees, this board used committees quite often, as most boards do. And the purpose of a committee is to do, since this board only meets once every other month, and it's for one meeting, it's a business meeting, boards use committees to do the research and do their work. Basically, the board directs a committee to do something, research an item, write a rule, research a rule, and then the board or the committee will meet. So
You're saying, oh, it's
what's that?
Sorry, Carol, could you repeat that?
the sound went down briefly, but it's back now.
Oh, okay. So the board asked me, because there are some things that might be going to committee, the board might want to send the committee to ask me to do a kind of overview of how committees work. And I did this document here that is attached to your board packet. It's basically how boards use committees. So basically, boards delegate detailed work to smaller bodies. These can be standing committees, which is what we have, or ad hoc committees or task force for a specific project. The last one I remember that the board did was for a CE task force. They put a special committee together to do a CE review. How they're created. So the full board typically adopts a motion to establish a committee during a formal meeting. The motion would outline its purpose, scope, composition, and duration. The committee charter may be detailed in the bylaws or board policies, and our committee charters are in our bylaws. Committee members are selected based on expertise and interest. Sometimes they're nominated by a governance or a nominating committee. A chair is chosen to lead the meetings and liaison with the full board. And then most committees have 3 to 7 members. We also have a board liaison for each committee. So basically it kind of looks like this. The board says we need to send this to committee. They pick which committee they want to send it to. They give the committee direction. There's a board liaison for the committee. The committee has a chair, and that chair organizes, sets the meeting, and the committee works on it. They set their dates, and if there's a board meeting that happens and the committee's still working on items, that committee chair will come to the board and give the full board an update on what the committee's doing. The board liaison is there to keep the committee on track and answer any questions that the committee might have. So that's basically how that works. They meet separately, they follow a meeting schedule, they keep minutes, they prepare written reports for the full board. Their workload may include research, drafting proposals, reviewing submissions, evaluating programs. Periodically, the full board reviews the committee's performance and adjusts them as necessary. The second page of this item talks about how our committees work. So we have 3 committees right now. So OMBT does. They're called standing committees, which means they're not ad hoc. They're always there. We have a rules committee, so the rules committee drafts and reviews proposed rule changes, prepares statements of need and fiscal impact statements, ensures legal consistency of our rules. We have a continuing education committee, so that reviews CE programs, evaluates competencies, ensures licensing education standards meet the minimum requirements. This board has a scope of practice committee, which evaluates new or existing modalities. Determines whether they fall under the massage therapy practice definitions. Committee, we already did a recruitment several months ago in anticipation of this particular meeting because there might be some information going to committee. And we have 2 full committees right now. Our scope of practice committee and our rules committee have current active members. The scope committee has 5, and the rules committee has 4, and they're ready for anything that the board wants to throw at them. And so, yeah, you see the summary table down here just talks about how you would send a motion to a committee. So that's kind of an overview of how the committee works. I can answer any questions you might have regarding that. Like I said, we haven't used committees for quite some time. They kind of went away during COVID, and we never brought them back. But I think it's time because we're starting to delve into things that the board wants to accomplish in the strategic plan, which involve a lot of minute details. And this board just simply doesn't have the time and the time that you need to do that. And that's the purpose of the committees, because we have anxious people that are willing to do the work for you and submit it back to you. So committees are an extension of the board. So basically, they're a mini board that works for the board. That's kind of a simple way to put it, I suppose.
And people get CE credit for participating in boards. So that's something people always want to know.
And well deserved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's the overview. The second document that's attached to this shows the committees and who's currently in those 2 committees that the board has formed and built. We did a recruitment process. The board went through the applications and selected these individuals to be on those committees based on the needs of the board. And so those 2 boards are ready for any assignment they have.
Okay, thank you. At this point, that's just the update component, but then the next thing we're gonna go through is our work assignments. Here is a separate. Does anybody need a break before we do that? Because I know we're gonna move into some
Yeah, from
big
here on,
discussions.
it's gonna be a lot of discussion.
Yeah. So I think this might be a good time, or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay, with our single bathroom, is 20 minutes sound okay for everyone? Okay, can I get a motion to take a 20-minute break?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Everybody, come back in 20.
Is everybody over here? You guys are hungry? We have some snacks over here. Enough so snacks for everybody to show up. So, and we're glad you're here, so we know that. I'll do that. Let's do Did you stop the recording?
This conference will now be recorded.
Melissa, can you hear us? We miss you.
You want to go ahead and start recording and we'll, I didn't hear it.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome back. Not sure where Carol is, I'm sure pop in really quickly here, but we are gonna go ahead and get into our big discussions for the day. It's basically starting with rules updates, and Director Ruhr is going to lead that. We're going to start with our CPR versus.
Actually, we'll start with the board assigned duties.
Oh, thank you.
That we changed the affirmative action.
Oh, yeah.
So I handed out, I gave everybody a handout that listed the board assigned duties. I want to talk about that for just a minute. I think it was the last business meeting, the board made these assignments. It might have been before that, or it's been a year at least. And the board has really changed since then. We got Doug, we have another board member coming in. I hope that they would be here for this. But we can, being a new board member, probably wouldn't have assigned duties anyway. So we kind of have a new scope of board here, so I wanted to make sure we went go over this again. So I kind of took everybody off and showed on here what the assigned duties are. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. Number 7 and number 8 on this list. One is board audit liaison and one is financial expenditure review. So in our financial expenditure review, that is already in our bylaws. That is the assigned duty of the vice chair of the board. Every quarterly, I send our vice chair a list of every expenditure that the board has. The vice chair reviews those and asks questions if need be and makes comments or anything like that. So it's just another check and balance in the process of the expenditures. So my suggestion is that since the vice chair is already doing the financial expenditure review, that should also maybe be the board audit liaison as well. That would alleviate the need to find somebody for that. And that's traditionally what's been. I mean, she's right now, Maria is the financial expenditure reviewer and the board audit liaison. But I think just adding her in there all the time, or that particular position all the time is the best way to go. Number two, IT board liaison. So we used to, for many, many years, contract with an IT provider. And we did not use the state IT system. As a semi-independent board, we have the ability to pick our contracts that we use. The idea is that we can be more frugal that way instead of being kind of told we have to spend this money because we get no money from the general fund. We're not funded by the state of Oregon. We get no money from the state of Oregon. So about a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a couple of years ago, we switched to DAS IT because we found having an independent contractor cost us a lot more money. DAS IT, which is the Department of Administrative Services, the state IT system, they used to be pretty tough to deal with, bureaucratic, and not real customer service oriented. They got a new director a couple years ago, and that director is really focused on the customer service aspect of it and reduce the costs, quite frankly. And a lot of us boards that were trying to save money have been going over to SIT. We did also, we saved a ton of money doing that. Upwards into about $80,000. So, but what I'm saying is we needed a board liaison back then because we had a lot of questions about IT services because we had to make determinations about what kind of IT programs we were going to use and IT expenditures and things like that. But now that we contract with SIT, they take care of everything for us. So I don't think we need to have that position anymore. So I think we should eliminate the IT liaison, board liaison for the IT. That's something we can add on later if we need to, but I don't anticipate being able to do that. So we will have 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the ones that need to be determined today. Well, it doesn't have to be determined today, but you can think about it if you can make those decisions on who would volunteer or who would be best for those positions today. Specifically, what I'd like to do is have the committee liaisons, because I think the board might want to start using committees here soon. And you should have a board liaison for those committees. So, I think we should skip one for now, the CEU person. And I think we should go through the committees, starting with the Rules Committee Board Liaison. And I'll let Chair Beckett sort of ask for volunteers from there, because that's more appropriate for them to do that.
Okay, and I think you're right. I just want to clarify, the CEU person is when we have questions for renewals.
Correct.
Things, that's the staff will contact us and talk through things. That's different from the making the rules about CEUs.
Correct, yeah.
Two different things. Oftentimes the CEU person is a massage therapist because we just know some of the stuff a little bit better.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at rules committee, schools liaison, education, and scope. I will say we don't have schools and education active right now, correct? We have.
Well, we have the all schools meeting, and I think that schools liaison is for that. The all schools meeting, and also just a board liaison for the schools. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that isn't a standing committee, but it has a little bit of a different responsibility.
It does. It's not a committee. It's not a committee position. It's the schools liaison is just somebody on the board that the schools can contact to say what they need to say. It's been me for quite some time. We hadn't really had a board member to be a school liaison for quite some time. To reach out to the board and maybe get some answers or forward information to the board that liaison can bring back to the full board for discussion.
So basically just a primary point of contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to be able to necessarily answer questions as much as you just get the information, bring it back to the board, we discuss it. And,
That's right.
So you don't have to be extra knowledgeable about anything to be a point person for any of this stuff. You just field a question.
And that's my question, because obviously I'm not a licensed massage therapist, so I'd be willing to take that.
Okay. So that would be the schools liaison. You'd be willing to take it. Is anybody else interested in that? Is there
No, but I did put them in for CEU before.
Okay, we're gonna come, Bob had said we're gonna come back to that one. We're gonna start with those other couple. So, schools, Scott is interested in. Okay, and so then rules committee liaison is a standing committee that is gonna be doing, definitely doing some work this year.
The nice thing about schools,
Liaison for that one. I served on the rules committee for about 10 years.
Hold on one second, Carol. I got what you said, and Bob had something else to say.
yeah, so the liaison is really, you're not a member of the committee. You're not going to go in there and really say anything. You're there as a resource. All these committees, the committee liaison. So basically, you're there to answer questions, to keep them on track. So if the committee is saying, what was the board's intention with this? You know, we got in the weeds. And they can ask you, what was your intention with this information that you sent us? If you know, you can answer. If not, you can say, well, I'll ask that question back at the board, and I'll bring that back to you. So really, I'm a liaison I'm on the board myself, the national board. I'm a committee liaison, and really, when I attend those meetings, I don't vote, I don't speak, and I'm there just in case they have a question for me, and 99.9% of the time, they don't have a question. And when they do, I usually say, I'll bring it back to the board and ask them. So it's not a lot of work, and it's just going there and making sure you're there to answer their questions or be a liaison for the board if they need it.
I understand that.
Yeah, I know you do. It wasn't for you, Carol. It was for everybody else here.
Yeah. Okay, so Carol, you said you'd be willing to do rules?
Yes.
Or was interested? Was anybody else interested in doing rules? Got a discussion? Okay. There's no discussion on that. We'll put Carol down for rules committee. Okay. Education committee, I think may end up needing to be doing some stuff too with some of the new things that have come into legislatively. I think that may happen. Does anybody have any interest in that? Education, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, typically works with the model curriculum and what we roll up, no?
Yep. No, it depends.
But it would be like what we're working with the schools to teach, what the standards of education are for licensure?
I think this is more like continuing education. So it would be for the rules on continuing education.
Okay.
So it's more of like a continuing education committee. So if the board decides to review continuing education and change it, they have this committee, it's a standing committee, to be able to say, we're gonna, this is what we want to do, this is what we're gonna look at. They can send it off to the committee, and the committee can do the research for it. And it's regarding CEUs. So the massage education.
Okay.
Requirements for licensure, as it pertains to requirements for licensure.
Got it.
I had to refresh my memory because it's been so long since we.
Right. Okay, anybody interested in being a liaison for education? Okay. Anyone else?
Well,
Sorry, say that, Melissa?
yes.
You'd be interested in that too? Okay.
Wouldn't 1 and 5, the CE person and the education committee, wouldn't that be,
No,
No.
not the same, but that person would still have,
No, they're,
okay,
from having done, it's not the
okay,
overlap.
thank you.
Okay, Doug and Melissa, and then the other one we have is scope of practice. We don't have and the education committee is not currently sitting there.
no.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I guess we just need to talk it out and figure out what,
Now, the board audit, I'm taking the board audit liaison, correct? Okay.
yeah, you're the liaison.
So our active committees right now, the two that we have put together is scope of practice and rules. The continuing education committee is not put together right now, but we do have a committee.
We do, but we just need people to do.
Yeah. We have the committee, we just need to fill it up. We have plenty of volunteers for it, but the two committees that are formed and ready to go are scope and rules right now. And so we have the liaison for the rules. So the education committee,
Well, actually, is there any reason that, if they're both interested in sitting on it, that they couldn't both get together?
That's how we have it set up.
That's not how we have it?
That's not
Or that is?
So we have people in multiple places, but the,
well, he was talking about, they were talking about board liaison, could there be two board liaisons?
Yeah, could you both sit on that intertand and,
it wouldn't make harm, so I can see why not. I mean, there's nothing in our environment that says that we couldn't.
thoughts?
Yeah,
Melissa or Doug?
I think, honestly, what I think is one of you, and I would say, looking at the scope of practice, evaluates new and existing modalities, determines whether they fall within massage therapy. I think Melissa, if you're okay with it, might, with your massage background, might be better in the scope of practice committee liaison. That's just my opinion regarding that, if that's okay with you, because we need a liaison for that. And the scope of practice committee, like I said, evaluates new and existing modalities, determines whether they will fall in massage therapy practice definitions.
Also, if you're not particularly interested in that, I have no problem doing scope of practice myself. And then we also have, like, if we said that we could have two people work on a committee, when the new person comes on, they could hop onto one with us, just to, I think it'd be good for us all to get more, it helps us with scheduling, if only one of us can show up, it also just gives us more experience with working with our committees, so I would also be comfortable with doing that, and having two of us liaise with, committee for all.
Yeah, you could have two liaisons for the education committee. That's perfectly fine. And the education committee, I actually call it continuing education committee, and reviews CE programs, evaluates competencies, ensures licensing education standards meet the minimum requirements. That's the charge from this board of that committee.
Yeah, we know that committee is going to have stuff to do right off the bat because of the legislative changes, so that's a new one. So why don't we say Melissa and Doug are both interested in that one? Let's do that together. Scope of practice, was anybody interested? If not, I will go ahead and do scope of practice easily.
I could do it too if you allow me to lay it to two committees.
I'm sorry, say that part again, Carol? Say that last part?
I'd be happy to do that as long as it's cool for me to be a liaison for more than one committee.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll, then you put, the two of us on that. And then we can, Maria's got that board audit.
Yep.
And then when the new person onboards, they can kind of hop on wherever they're interested or wherever they feel like they'll learn something. And I think that gets us.
And I've got the financial expenditure review too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so you had 7 and 8.
Just checking.
So looks like they're filled, with the exception of the CU person, and I want to talk about that just for a moment. The reason I left it is because I did some historic research on that, and I had found that traditionally, our CU person has been the board chair. If the board chair is a licensee, which it has been for as long as I've been here. So that's traditionally been that position. There has been some times that the vice chair has been in that position. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's traditionally like that. So I'm trying to go where we've always gone versus kind of doing what we did last time, is just have a board member in there.
So sort of the triage would be the board chair, their licensee, and then it would go to probably the next, like if for some reason they couldn't do that, so maybe the next like kind of senior LMT board member.
Right. Right.
Well, that would be me.
Okay, it's different than what you said, Bob.
What's that?
It's different than what you said. You said senior LMT and you said vice chair.
No, he said the vice chair, but I assume that meant the caveat that they were LMT.
They're LMTs, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I just want to make sure.
I think it's important that,
I do too.
that an LMT would probably be the CEU liaison. And I think it's real important. So I know that when our former chair was the CEU liaison, of course, for quite some time. Before you, that is. And then previous to that, we had, I think, a vice chair doing it, but it was generally always the chair that was in that position. So I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I'm happy to do that. That's when I was vice chair, that's what I recall doing. Like, so, yeah, that's what I remember how it was going historically. So I'm fine with that. And I think this year I think everything else is covered on here.
I do too, yeah.
And then,
I'm looking for a second for, if you're taking the lead on the CE person, you're looking for a second, right?
No, it's more of a phone call thing than a committee.
Okay, got it.
Like they might just send a message like, somebody submitted this for review, we've never heard of it before. Do you have a clue? Can you explain to us what this is?
The difference is from staff.
Yes,
Got it.
correct.
Thank you.
Drinks.
Oh, thank you. Okay, then we don't need to vote on any of this, I'm assuming, or do we?
I think we do, yes.
We do, okay, so I will read out who we have assigned to things, and then we will go ahead and vote to do it as explained. That work? Okay, so CEU person's going to be me as the chair, and then if I was unavailable, it could go to an LMT member. IT liaison, we're eliminating. Rules committee board chair, or board liaison is going to be Carol. School liaison is going to be Scott. Education committee board liaison are going to be Doug and Melissa. Scope of practice liaison will be myself and Carol. Board audit liaison will be Maria as the vice chair. That will also go with the financial expenditure review, which is in our bylaws as the vice chair. Our FSM TV delegate this year is going to be Doug. Legislative contact will be again the board chair. Ed search committee is the executive committee. Our board member recruitment is the executive director of the governor's office, and our task force liaison is assigned if the task force is created, which we do not have at this time. Can I get a motion to accept those assignments as read?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of accepting the assignments?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. There are assignments for the next year. Fantastic.
So, the next part of this is what I've entitled legislative update. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Representative Tran, sort of has championed massage therapy. Her district runs in the Portland area. Part of her district is on 82nd Avenue, where there's a lot of illegal unlicensed massage facilities. And she has been getting a lot of complaints about those facilities, so she reached out to the AMTA and the Board of Massage and said, you know, what can we do to help? And the AMTA with their AMTA, what's the name of some legislative person?
Lobbyists.
Lobbyists, yes, the AMTA with their lobbyists, worked with Representative Tran and reached out to us, and we gave them information about how they could make this work, and they came up with House Bill 3819, which passed the House and the Senate and was signed by the governor, takes effect in January. Some of the cool things about this, and Representative Tran has already reached out to me, as has the senator that co-sponsored this bill, and said, what can I do? We got a legislative session coming up after the special session. Start giving me some ideas. So they're really wanting to help this profession. And when I testified in front of the legislative committee and when Representative Tran testified, we were basically saying that these facilities have just stolen a profession and just said, we're going to take your profession and we're going to try to bring it back into the dark ages, the not weak, which is what a lot of massage therapists that have been around for a long time have worked very hard to get recognition for massage therapy as a healthcare profession. And it is recognized in Oregon and many states as a healthcare profession, as it should be. And so Rep. Tran wants to help the licensees and this board fight these individuals that have taken over this profession, or trying to take over this profession. We're not going to let them do it. So they came up with this House bill, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are in here. There was some cleanup language in this House bill that we're not going to have to do anything about, but when the board chooses to consider discipline, our law said that any mitigating factors that the board may choose to consider when they make their determination. The board also added, or the legislators added aggravating as well, because the board had always done that, and they should consider aggravating factors. It's both mitigating and aggravating factors when they're making their disciplinary determination. So that was a good thing for us. The civil penalties. So we're finding that these illegal facilities have a lot of money. And I will tell you that I've spoken to individuals who have kind of crossed over to our side and have talked to us, informants, so to speak. And some of these facilities are making $25,000 a day. And making bank withdrawal or making bank deposits of $250,000 a month sometimes. So when we give them a $1,000 fine, that's nothing. They laugh at it, and that's really the only recourse we have right now until this law came in. But we asked the legislative assembly, or we asked the legislators to increase our civil penalties from a maximum of $1,000 per violation to a maximum of $5,000 per violation. We didn't do that because we want to, the legitimate massage therapist that accidentally does something wrong, that's not the reason we did that. And this board has never been that way. So I would assume you're going to see that the board is going to use this tool to target these large criminal organizations or even independent organizations. Some of them are not part of organized crime. Some of them are just individuals or groups of individuals that are engaging in illegal activity. So the purpose of raising that civil penalty is not to target individual massage therapists. It's to target the illegal enterprise. I knew my voice was going to go out today. The second part of that is that we asked the Legislative Assembly to allow us to, and this is just an overview. I know the board members they know about this, but I want to get it on the record again. We asked the Legislative Assembly to allow us to do a placard. So the idea behind this placard is we have these facilities that they don't have any licensed individuals. They don't even try to be licensed. They're hanging up a thing that says massage. They're having menus that say massage. They look legitimate to a degree. They do have a business model that they said some of the illegal ones look similar. But to the untrained eye, you could end up having a soccer mom drop off her kid and decide, man, my shoulder's hurt, I'm going to go into one of these facilities and find out that it's not what she or he thinks it might be. And that's happened, by the way. Yeah, so the idea behind this placard is to make it difficult for these individuals to, Jeff, could you finish this?
Absolutely. What Director Ruark is addressing is that we wanted to be able to warn the public in a manner that, because since we can't put chains on the door and lock them out, we can't arrest them. That once the board has reached the point where, with due process and all the other administrative rules we have to follow, that we could return to these stores, because they're most often continue to operate, and placard them with a 8x10 brighter colored sticker that says something along the lines of, public warning, to let the public know. It will also let, I've got hard copies, it'll also let the landlord know, which if we haven't already found or gotten in touch with them, that they would hopefully reach out to us and see how they could get involved. And we are happy to supply them with any public information we can give them that might be a tool in going through the eviction process, which can solve the problem for a while until they find a new place to live. But the biggest effect to it was let the public know, one, the board is trying to do everything they possibly can. They have a conduit through this to contact us if they want additional information. Law enforcement will see this and become aware if we haven't already worked with them. Hoping that the public becomes aware and puts pressure on their city councils and their mayors and their law enforcement to actually work with us to help shut these places down. And then again, letting the neighboring businesses and stuff know that things that we are working on. And so Mitch and I just came up with a couple simple samples, because we didn't want to put too much work into this until the committee had a chance to, define the rules and like that. The one thing that we definitely wanted to include was the human trafficking hotline, so that the girls that are working there, hopefully they can read that and have that resource if they ever do choose to reach out and seek rescue.
When I testified on behalf of it, well, I couldn't testify on behalf of it because it's not our bill. I had to stay neutral because we're a government agency. But when I testified on this, I told them that our intention is not to target the LMTs that happen to have their license lapse. And we didn't realize it because it was a leap year or whatever, and so the purpose behind this is it's written in a way that if these individuals, that nobody's licensed in the business is not licensed, they're not employing licensed massage therapists, they don't have a facility permit or any of that stuff, then the board has the authority to be able to placard this business. It also, because there's a supply and demand issue, right? I mean, if there's no demand, there's no need for a supply. I think it would be difficult for some of these individuals
Saving marriages.
Yeah, exactly. And the last part of that bill that we asked them to do was raise, so right now, a lot of people don't know this, but any violation of our laws is a Class A misdemeanor. It's arrestable offense. That doesn't have a lot of bite to it for some reason. It's kind of hard to get law enforcement excited about a Class A misdemeanor, although it's the highest misdemeanor that you have. So we asked if they could adopt a law to raise our penalties to a Class C felony. They balked at that because they were concerned, and they brought up some good valid points. So they made a compromise, and the compromise is that any person that has a prior conviction, so it's basically the second offense, would be a Class C felony. So if they're continuing to engage in this activity, they're gonna give them the hammer, right? So that's the idea behind this Senate bill. And any questions about that? The brief on the bill. I know you guys are familiar with it. I just kind of wanted to give you an idea because we're going to talk a little more about it. So what we did, find this document here. So the first thing, also actually part of the bill as well, was when massage therapists became healthcare providers in the eyes of the state of Oregon, they were accidentally left off as mandatory reporters. We went to the legislature and said, if you're going to consider massage therapy as a healthcare profession, they need to be, with all other healthcare professions, mandatory reporters. And they agreed. So they made massage therapists mandatory reporters, which they hadn't been previous to that. So part of this legislative discussion and training that we're doing here today is, first of all, to kind of bring the board up to date on where we're at. The board had asked me, and LMTs have asked in the past, are you going to provide some sort of mandatory reporter training? And the board had directed me to do that. So there's two different sheets attached to your board packet. One says information and one says training sheet. They're both training sheets. What I found is that there's already free training in the state of Oregon for mandatory reporters. I linked that website on these two sheets. Both of them, one of them just says, hey, you're now a mandatory reporter. And in this case, this is something the legislators made a mistake on. I'm going to ask them to correct it. There's two different types of mandatory reporting. There's one for child abuse and there's one for elder abuse, right? They included us in they included LMTs in the child abuse one. They didn't include them in the elder one. So we're going to ask them to fix that in this next session.
Which we actually probably get more of.
Which you would, yeah. But as of right now, that LMTs, as of January 1st, LMTs will be mandatory reporters of child abuse. And so I did this sort of pamphlet or handout to be able to hand out, put on our website, hand out to LMTs, give it to the schools, things like that. It gives the hotline on how to report child abuse. It talks about, how you are, your legal duty and what counts as abuse, what you must do, things like that. The second one is the training sheet, and that's the one that actually lists the actual bill. That lists what the new responsibilities are, the relevant statute, the type of things that you need to report, how to report. And at the very bottom, it talks about training. Like I said, the state of Oregon, through the Department of Human Services, has a free training program. They provide all mandatory reporters with free training, so it's not something I think that we need to develop. It's already there. We just need to make our LMTs aware of it. So if they have questions, they can go to that website, and if they can't answer those questions, then we'll certainly try to help them answer those. And they get free training on that website as well. So that is the first portion of that. Go ahead, Dick.
Is there anything that the board would need to do to include that future training? That if someone chose to take the DAS mandatory reporting of child abuse, that's a 40 or 60-minute course, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Do we have to do anything so that we can count those towards CE?
Yeah.
It's already.
Is it already in there?
So the
Is there
way
a
that
category?
works, everything, it could go under just education that pertains to teams. So you can pull that up. Yeah, it's already in.
That's great, thank you.
Not everything.
That makes it easy. That makes it easy. I just want to make sure we didn't miss that.
Yeah, and that's the last section on here where it talks about that. I want the board to consider, under that, to allow LMTs to get continuing education for that mandatory reporter training, because it is important, and the ones that are, that are very interested in learning that and take the time to do that, I think they should be able to use that for CEs.
About other mandatory reporters, all of the other professions in this state. Do any of them have the mandatory reporter training as a requirement? Is it mandatory that they get the training in order to appropriately when necessary? And if so, is that a training that they must take one time during their license tenure, or is it something that must repeat, such as CPR? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that other agencies require that particular training. It sounds like that might be something that the board wants to send, to the committee to do that research and direct the committee to do that research, and then maybe write some sort of rule that would make it mandatory for our licensees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's so.
I think
Go ahead, Carol.
sorry. I think it's kind of hollow to just say, oh, we are mandatory reporters without making sure that our licensees know how to do it. And the best way to make sure they know how to do it is require them to have the 1 hour of education so that they know how to do it. I'm in favor of it once as a one-time only, like the pain module, for example. Yeah, I think that's a really reasonable thing. We're gonna get the desired effect of people actually reporting things if they understand how to do it, and training is a really great way to help with that understanding.
Could it be included on like the licensure as part of the application?
I think that the closest thing historically that we have with this would be when the pain science module came on board, but that's a state training that gets updated that we can add in. So we do have some language, like we have kind of gone through something similar to this.
It's correct. It's not a big deal at all. It is an easy fix. We send it to committee put the language together and modify the rules, add it in there, say 1 hour counts for this, the same way. However, the board approve of it when that time comes. But we can move that to the committee to have that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it can go to the education committee, and they can study that, do the research about, is this how other places do it? Even if they don't, they can come up, and say, here's the rule that we propose for that, and that's the purpose of the committee. So I think you could send it out to the committee and have them dig in the weeds for you and not have to hash it out today.
So just for those of you who weren't here when we went through other CE stuff, this would be something they could come back and say, everybody has to take this one module through the state, and like our pain science module is linked when you do your renewal. You can find it there, or they might say, find it on your own. They could come up with different options, but that would all be something the committee would do, give us our options, and then we decide which one we want to go with as a board.
And as a mandatory reporter in a different profession, in a couple different states, it's typically a one-time thing, and you just, I was like, got the training in it.
We have the scaffolding to make this a pretty easy fix, like Kai is saying, we just have to like send it to committee, let them come up with the language, and then, voila.
Yeah, because I kind of think you're going to be sending some other stuff to committee, so this would be a good one to get the committee start working, and I think it's an easy one.
Yep.
And a good training, to get the committee, so, yeah.
And I mean, I think the most important thing that for me would be what is the board's intent? Like, how do you want to approach it? And so I guess that's where Bob comes in when you direct him to put the assignment together for the committee. So really emphasize the intent. How does the board want to see the end result? So I think maybe that's what Carol is trying to do. Is do we want it to, every so many years or once that's the weed of the weed. So that's where the committee will come in to really express that intention. If the board liaison can bring that kind of stuff. But for now, I think that it's something that we can assign to the education committee and let the education committee come up with the language.
So the summary of what I'm hearing here is what we would want the committee to investigate and make recommendations on is what is the frequency, the lifetime frequency that licensing needs to take this. We want to make sure that people get credit for it, for taking this training, and that, we're in line with other health boards for doing this, and that our constituents are prepared to take on this responsibility with the education they need. So that's what I'm hearing our concerns are, that the committee, we want the committee to work through. Does that sound, am I wrapping up everybody's issues?
I don't know, I kind of wonder if we couldn't just speed this up a little bit. Given that there's one education program out there that's, that people, that healthcare workers can take in this state, why not just send this right to the rules committee and say, everybody does it once? And if this program changes over time, we could take another look at it down the road and say, it's significantly different than it was back in 2025. Maybe we want to take the new version or something like that. I'm not sure that the education committee really needs to grind away at this for any amount of time. Seems like a rules deal to me, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked how many other committees were doing it. I thought that was a question that was presented. Maybe I misheard that.
I don't know. I think that staff could look at that and pretty fast and if there's something about that. I mean, I don't know. I think just plugging it in one time makes sense, just like the pain management thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so Carol, you asked how other places are doing it, which means research, right?
I've lost
so
interest.
So that's where we're going. So I know you changed it on us. So if the board says, hey, we're going to require it, write a rule for it, then we can send it right to the rules committee. So if you want to make that determination now and say, we want this, we're going to give you credit for it, send it to rules, have them write a rule and bring it back, you can do that. I was going down a different avenue because I thought there was some research that needed to be done, and so.
Personally, I feel like I'd rather see some research done because I haven't seen the training module myself. Without having that information, that's where I'd like to look at it before.
You guys may decide to do your own because you might not like that one, or use a different place.
I don't think necessarily, it has to go to the committee one way or the other. We need to have this done, so I don't think necessarily slows it down for them to say this is massage appropriate or we need to do something differently. Based on the experience we have from the pain module, I'm just trying to anticipate some of the issues if it doesn't, and BLS if it doesn't match up with massage really well. So I feel like I would like to at least look at this before I'm comfortable saying, like, let's require this one module.
Okay.
Well, I think Carol's voice on that is valid, but then Bob put in what if we don't like it, and what if we decide to go with someone else's, or make up our own. I had no idea that was an option, which totally makes sense, which now definitely, and especially with the paint thing, I think that's probably, it needs to stick with that committee then, for research.
Okay, at this point, I'm comfortable saying let's refer this to committee for research and recommendations to the board about appropriate training for this. Okay, we need to take a vote to send that to committee. Can I get someone to make that motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of sending this to the, what committee?
Education.
Education, thank you. The Education Committee.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carried.
May I ask a question?
What's that?
Director Duarte? How long, so you said they're gonna correct for the elderly. How long will that take? Is it a whole nother
Legislative session.
So they're going, yeah, the next session, they're gonna look at our laws anyway, they're already going to do that. The Representative Tran and Senator Taylor, yeah, I couldn't remember. They're already excited about helping us out in the next session. So they kind of tasked me with looking at what we want, so they're already gonna do it. So adding that on shouldn't be a problem. I think it's very easy pass. I think anything else you might add is the hard pass, it might be hard to pass. But I think adding them like it should be is.
So this will be a separate, it won't be everything, something, whatever else comes up isn't gonna be pork on top of that.
Oh.
This would be,
Yeah.
I'm asking for requesting, because if this is just an oversight, I know that when the state makes mistakes to include something, it's like, okay, we forgot to include this, it was supposed to be included. We're not at that point, they actually have to do the legislative.
Yeah, I consider it legislative.
And then they go into session then? Okay, thank you.
And I anticipate, based on what Tran has told us, and the full package bill that got changed over time, that they're going to work with Director Ruark about reintroducing anything that was taken out that might be appropriate, or adding anything new that was not handled in the first bill. So this will likely be lumped into that. That's just letting you know.
Okay, because I do remember there were things that were.
Some things we didn't like.
Okay, all right, but it's nice to have them back.
Tran is still eager to work on those things. I think we can, having this last experience working with Tran and their support staff and stuff, that we'll have more communication and better communication with them to hopefully be able to explain reasons why this will work and not work, because they don't really understand what it's like to do it in the trenches versus up in the sky.
Nice.
And so they've already been reaching out to Director Ruark to start those discussions. But I fully expect that this will, if they add this, it'll be part of the bigger bill.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the visual.
Yep. So the second part I want to talk about is this placard law. And so this one's got me up at nights a little bit, because implementation is it's not difficult, it's a pretty straightforward addition to our law. And I sort of was thinking about how we're going to approach this, and it's already in our law, and there's kind of two ways to approach it. One is we can write a bunch of rules on implementing it, but since it's already in our law, I think we can do a policy procedure on how to implement this placard. And if you look in the board packet here, there's a placard, kind of a draft placard policy. Now this is more of a stream of consciousness that I put together because I've been trying to attack this. So it's not a white paper, it's not a kind of it's more of a policy. And there's a couple things. So adding this placard, when you first look at the law, you envision going to this facility, nobody's licensed, wham, you throw this sticker on the door and it says, this is a horrible place, right? No, they're not doing anything right. Yes. In the scheme of things, we can't do that. okay? Because it's discipline, right? And we have administrative law that we have to follow in Oregon. So people have the right, before they're adjudicated guilty of anything, to have appeals, right? And we want to make sure that we preserve that right for everybody, even though they're, doing something wrong. They didn't have that right as well. So this policy basically says that this is how I think the board should approach this. The board, like today, gets disciplinary action, right? Presented to the board. As part of their decision-making process, they can say, sticker or placard. So let's say here's a civil penalty for $5,000 and placard the facility, okay? We send out our notice to the facility, like we do in any kind of discipline, right? We don't collect civil penalties until their appeal process is done, which for a notice of a proposed action is 30 days, okay? Or what is it? 21. 21 days, I'm sorry. It's 21, and I knew that. I'm sure I did that for a little bit. It's 21 days, sorry. So it's 21 days. After 21 days, it becomes a final order, right? The only thing they can do when there's a final order is they can go to the Court of Appeals, all right? So I think the idea would be if a facility is found to be violating this law by not employing any individuals, not having a facility permit, not following any of our laws, that the board would vote to issue a civil penalty or whatever they vote to do and issue a placard to it. We would send out a notice of proposed action. At the end of that 21 days, that's when the investigator or whoever can go back out and placard that facility because they've had their ability to have their administrative hearing, right? That's one way to approach it, okay? If in that 21 days, this policy says if within that 21 days, they come back and say, I fired everybody, here's my facility permit application, I just hired 2 LMTs, I'm trying to go legit, I would be amazed, because that's never happened. But if it did, then of course you wouldn't put the placard on there. If after we put the placard on, they come and say, I've got this facility permit now, I have licensees, here's their license numbers, I'm totally in compliance, then they can remove the placard. Or we can tell them they can remove the placard. That's in this policy as well. There's another way to do this that is done in the state of Oregon, and I think it would still fall under the administrative rule. I think it would follow the procedures, and that is have an in-house hearings person, okay? So if you get your vehicle towed by the government, and you decide to ask for a tow hearing, whoever towed your vehicle, like the sheriff's office or the police department, they have an administrative person that has a hearing, basically. And they look at all the evidence, they make a determination, and that would suffice in this case too. So the other process is to have a hearings officer, an in-house hearings officer, that if someone challenges this during that period, we could have an in-house hearing, and that individual makes that determination. Probably have to bring it back to the board to get it ratified. And ultimately, we could do it that way. I'm giving you the whole spiel here, so then we can have a discussion. In this thing that I wrote up, this is a policy, and this policy talks about what the law is, what legal authority the board has, what the scope of the policy is. Talks about placard posting, the due process requirement, which is what I just talked about. It talks about what the placard is going to look like, and also in your packet here, how the placard can be removed and penalties for non-compliance. In your packet here, you have the placards that he that Jeff worked on, Jeff and Mitch worked on, and they're examples. They can be any way that you want them to be. But those are example placards that we have. So just to kind of be a little bit more specific, we could write a whole bunch of rules, implement the rules that basically outline this policy, okay? Have those rules go through the rule hearing process, committee process, all that stuff, and get it put in our rules and have the rules tell the board what to do. The other way to do it is to have a policy like this that says this is the policy and procedure with regards to a placard, because the placard is already in our law. It already says you can placard somebody for non-compliance of this. And so you can have a policy that outlines everything that, like I did here. That's 2 avenues you can do. You guys got to talk about which one you feel more comfortable with. You can bounce some things off of Kaite, who has a lot more rules experience than I do. That's kind of her field, being the board's policy analyst, business analyst, but used to be policy analyst. And so I wanted to give you all those options, open that discussion up. You may decide to say, you know what, let's take the information we have, let's run it to the committee, have a committee write us a bunch of rules. The research is done pretty much, so I'm not sure that there needs to be a lot of research on it. It's pretty straightforward. If you decide to go the policy way, then myself, Jeff, Mitch will be working on writing a more solid policy to bring back to you, getting the placards printed up so you can pick which one you want to choose, or pick which one you want to have, and getting it back to you to get it approved and start doing that. I don't envision that this is something that when the law takes effect, we're going to be slamming placards on right away. I think this is something that we're going to use it as the tool that it was meant to be used as, to combat these illegal facilities. So we're going to be very selective, I think. The board, I think, should be very selective about how you should do that. So I'm going to stop talking.
Question?
Yeah.
On number 8, penalties for non-compliance. So we talk about fines and whatnot. Can that still be as a policy, or would that actually have to be a rule?
Well, it's already in the law.
Okay. Checking. Okay, cool.
And I don't know what draft you have of.
I have yours.
Okay. Bob and I were working on this late as well, so I don't know if we got all the updates. The basic, the non-compliance penalty is in the law for the placard specifically, and it's $100 a day that it's removed without authority.
Nice.
So it's separate from the board's normal civil penalties. Yet, they are also violating some of those, like failing to obey a board order. So you could add $1,000 to $5,000 there, and there's other things we could throw in there, but those specific non-compliance, i.e. removing the placard without authorization, is $100 a day.
Okay.
And that's already set by statute.
And is the placard a tin, or is it like the health department where it's a peel off that goes on the side of the door for?
You guys get to decide that as well.
Okay.
My suggestion is, based on Bob and my past law enforcement, that it be made out of that sticker that you put on the side of the road, tow vehicles, that is very, 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 very difficult to remove.
Yeah, that stuff's solid.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is I'm in favor of the due process thing and giving people their 21 days. Although there's a part of me that says like, well, they're either in compliance or they aren't. Like, it's really easy for us to know, do these people have a permit or do they not have a permit? And that the answer about that would be clear. And given that the placard says this is an unlicensed facility, I mean, like, it either is or it isn't, and that has little to do with their due process and their time, it ultimately has something to do with what kind of civil penalties they're looking at. But I also understand that sometimes the ownership of one of these facilities isn't clear, et cetera, et cetera. So the 21-day thing and making it a policy thing makes sense to me. Now, I got a question for Bob and Jeff, and you may not know this off the top of your head, but I'd love your guesstimate. I'm wondering, like, if this thing were in effect now, if we had a policy in place, if we had trackers ready to go, ready to stick on their windows, how many facilities statewide at this point would get stickers on their windows in the next week?
Carol, I can't give you that number, but I think you can come up with one in your head. Imagine all of the meetings that we've had in the last 2 years, and every one of these illicit facilities that you or other board members have voted to discipline with $13,000 of violations, and every one of those will get a sticker.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that's like really awesome. And by the way, I looked at the sticker designs. I like the red one. Let's go with the scarlet letter, like if we're gonna go, let's go big. Okay, I'm all done.
Thank you, Carol. I think those are some good questions. I have another question about this. I was just doing some little math on the timing. So I think if we go the rule strategy, let's say a complaint comes in on the first of the year, we're looking at, you get an investigator assigned to do the investigation, we're looking at least 30, 60 days. Let's say that rolls till, best case scenario, February 1st, we got an investigator on it. Then it comes back to the board. We don't have a board meeting scheduled till mid-March, so we're looking at how long that takes. We make our determination, then they have a 21-day appeal. The earliest we get a placard on is May. So we're looking at about, best case scenario, 5-month to 6-month process from a complaint of a place through the placarding. Does that sound reasonable?
Worst case, yeah, that's good.
Okay, so that would be for the rule determination timeline. If we want the policy determination timeline, can you give me what you think the timeline might look like from?
It depends on the policy.
Well,
So if you guys voted, I mean, we could have a policy in place by the first of the year. So if it was in effect by became effective the first of the year, let's say, it certainly would increase, it would help the timeline for us to implement it. It's not gonna impact, how long it takes us to get the board to approve and do all that stuff. Implementation will be quicker without going through committee and writing rules, but actually.
So the actual, from complaint to placarding is gonna be identical. The only thing that's gonna change is when we start implementing this.
Correct.
From policy to rule.
Because it takes a lot longer to do the rules process than it does just to write a policy and have you approve the policy.
That's right, perfect.
I would like to just add a few other things to have in your head. We didn't, Representative Tran and other supporters and the board specifically don't want to target individual races or other protected classes. So I think having all of the steps that Director York described are also potential stopgaps to make sure that the board isn't profiling. Perceived to be. I think it needs to be open. I think they absolutely need their due process. A little part of me wants to do what Carol wants to do. Absolutely, I want to stick that thing on as the investigator is leaving the building, because we know it's not a licensed facility. But because the majority of these places are owned by Chinese or other groups that might feel targeted, I think it's very important that we slow the roll on this and go through our procedures very carefully to make sure we're doing the right thing. Even if that means some places don't get fired.
I like the policy because trends change, just like CEs change, just like body works change, and if it's policy, it can be tweaked. instead of having to go through the rules process. We know how long that takes.
That's a great point.
Because there's always an unintended consequence we
Yes.
can't anticipate, and we really don't know what it's
We're
going
not
to
gonna
be at this point. But if it's in the rule, then we're another year out from correcting whatever that consequence is.
And if it's a policy, Director Ruark always brings it back to the board for us to review and vote on, so that it's clear that the board is, this is the way that they want, not necessarily.
Exactly. And the reason I brought the policy out is normally we would have something, we'd write a rule on it. That's the process, right? So we're not trying to usurp the rule process. But the way that this was written into our law, it says, if they violate this, you can do this. And if they take the placard off, there's this fine. I mean, they laid it out. So you would basically, to write a rule, you would basically just cut that out and put it over the rule and drop it in there. And we're gonna have a procedure anyway.
Yes.
So it's already in our law. I don't know that it needs to have a rule saying to reinforce the law.
Well, we certainly don't have a rule for everything in the.
If the law just said you have the ability to placard, we would have to write a rule. Because, but the law doesn't say that. The law says, if this person is in violation of this, you may placard thing, and if they take the placard off, it's $100 fine every day. So it's spelled out really well for us there. So that's the only time that I would ever recommend a policy. I mean, I didn't recommend a policy, I'm giving you options. It's the only time I give an option of a policy, because the law is already written there, and the rule would not really
Be redundant.
Yeah.
because you already have a procedure.
Yes.
Do you want to write the entire procedure in a rule?
Oh, it's easy.
No.
The more you have in there, the more they can be built on
And misconstrued.
and misconstrued.
So here, the way that the state likes to do its thing with the consultant is that they prepare more rules and policy, like you just said. However, if we're looking to implement the rules, the statute coming January 1st, it might behoove us to first approve the policy. We have something in place to be able to implement that statute coming January 1st. Whilst we try to figure out the nuances of the rules on how we want to go about it. There are things in the statute now that are also in rules. It's just the way, it's redundancy, you can't go wrong. People still call and ask questions even though it's right there. But the rule just further clarify the statute, and the policy is supposed to clarify the rule. And so with that being said, again, it's up to the board to make that decision which way they want to go. But in my humble opinion, redundancy doesn't hurt anybody, but in my field of work is, at least in my experience.
I agree too. I mean, it's a fine line. It really is. And like I said, I'm going to say it again, we're not trying to not write a policy. We're not trying to go get around the policy thing. What I'm trying to say is it's already there. But I understand that it's certainly important to, in the interest of transparency and things like that, to go through that process, to allow public comment, public input, and all that type of stuff, which.
If what you're saying is that a policy is meant to clarify a rule, but I think what Bob is saying is that the statute is written in such a way that it is already clear and the rule is going to become a redundancy, could we possibly say, let's go the policy route, reevaluate at our next business meeting, and if there isn't something substantial, we go ahead and write that into rule, so that we can maybe find if any of those hiccups come along the way, we can address that, as opposed to then having to remove a rule and then
That's
rewrite it.
precisely what I said, yeah. That's what I mean, yes.
Okay.
Any second?
In my other life state job, we actually have rules, and then it says per policy. That should be able to cover all that. Easy peasy, long as we.
Yeah, you reference it to the statute, yes. So in the rules, we reference it to the statute.
The policy.
The policy, yeah.
To the policy.
Yes. No, I'm not talking about like we.
Well, that's what you.
No,
she
no,
said,
no,
yes,
I'm
we see that,
understanding
yeah.
about it, yes, I'm talking about what we do in our.
Yeah.
If you look at our rules,
Mhm.
we have rules that are redundant with the statute. We just say, please go to ORS, blah,
Same.
blah, blah.
Same here.
Yeah.
So you've got your statute, and then your rules come, and then your
Exactly.
policy. So
Exactly.
your policy would say the rules and then the statute,
Exactly.
ORS. So
Yes, so it's also,
do we have to vote on this?
what is it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we do. So we have to decide if we're gonna go ahead and direct the director to, write, or to,
Formalize policy, bring it back to
To
you.
the next meeting.
okay, so we either do that or we need to vote to go to the committee. So at this point, we need somebody to, I guess, make a motion to go one direction or the other. And
I'd like to make a motion to direct, Director Ruark to make a policy.
Second that.
Okay, we'll go with Maria and Doug on that. All in favor of, advising the director to form a policy to bring back to the committee?
To the board.
I'm sorry, to the board, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Director Ruark will take that direction and bring a policy back to the board for future consideration.
But for the record too, I'm in favor of people having due process. I just wanted to say that. I was not.
So am I, Carol, but I also have that other feeling that you have, why can't we just put the sticker on the door?
Same here, Carol, I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah, good, yeah, I mean, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
shall we move on to the next one?
I sure do.
Okay. So, several months ago, well, over the course of the last several years, ever since the board, many years ago, decided to switch from a CPR requirement to a basic life support requirement, we have had multiple discussions. The board has, the schools have, our LMTs call us. It's been difficult over the course of the last several years. We tried to define BLS for our licensees, but there's so many classes out there that some of them are real expensive, like, putting tracheotomies in and all that kinds of stuff. And then there's, just CPR and AED, and it runs the gambit from 2-day classes to, 15-minute class online. And so when we did the BLS, basic life support, we were trying to elevate the profession because, it is a healthcare profession. The board was. I was here. I keep saying we, but I consider us part of the family. But I think it had some unintended consequences. And so the board got a letter from a couple of individuals over the course of the last year, kind of, and there's been some talk at some of the meetings asking the board to maybe take a look at, do we continue BLS or do we go back to CPR? So the board directed me to do some research. And I did this white paper that's attached here. And the white paper is basically a pro and cons argument, for and against, and kind of comes to a conclusion at the end. And it's based on facts, it's based on research, and it's all here for you to review and for me to answer any questions you have. I also included the correspondence that sort of generated this, some of the correspondence that sort of generated this. I also put a timeline of when we implemented the BLS requirement. That is down there on page 4 or something. And then there's my recommendation that I came to the conclusion based on the white paper and the research that I did. So, but I am, there you go, presenting it to you as requested for you to have a discussion.
I appreciate it very much, and, yeah, we have talked about this, at least once or twice a year for the last 4 years, I believe, and, I think at this point, you covered almost all the stuff we've talked about. There's a little bit more we can add for context if anybody has further questions, but for those of you who haven't taken the BLS, just very basically, it's a lot of the implementation of BLS you'd have to be in a medical setting to be able to apply a whole lot of the stuff. So there are a lot of, it can be amorphous, and it hasn't had the consequences that the board intended when it was implemented. It's also, like if it's an intensive class, it's a very extensive class, where CPR is something that is much easier to fit into like a school curriculum, or for people to get CEs. It's always one day, it's across multiple days, and it's available online. So yeah, there's all sorts of things, because most massage therapists are never going to work in a place with AEDs, crash carts, tracheotomies, a birthing center, trauma center, electrocution, like you're not doing first aid response to that stuff. So, does anybody want to make the case that we maintain it? Like, I guess let's start there. Anybody want to make the case that we maintain BLS at this point? That's a no. Yeah, I'm certainly on team CPR, transparently. So at this point, can we, if nobody wants to maintain BLS, can we go ahead and do we need to just move this to committee to write the rule to go back, or do we just direct?
No, just the recommendations there, initiate the rulemaking process, including stakeholder public comment periods to determine, to switch back to CPR.
Revert back to CPR. So we would just need somebody to make a motion to initiate the rulemaking process to do CPR instead of basic life saving for our education requirements.
I make the motion.
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay.
She got so moved in there. Okay.
Second.
Okay. Can we get a vote on CPR, reverting back to CPR?
CPR.
All in favor?
I really appreciate this letter that Michael wrote.
All opposed? None opposed, the motion carries.
Yeah, he did a really good job, didn't he? Outlining.
And very respectful.
Yeah, I think this will be a win for our teachers, our first aid teachers, our CPR instructors and stuff.
So would it be appropriate to have someone thank him for sending that in?
Yeah, you can do that. I think he'll be excited to hear what you guys came up with.
Wonderful.
Okay. So this next one, this is also, this letter came to the board. To the bottom of this is a letter that came to the board. This individual wanted the board to consider maybe clarifying the rule on relationships, client relationships, therapist-client relationships. So Oregon Board of Massage, unlike a lot of other healthcare providers in the state, we don't have a cooling off period for those types of relationships. Almost every other profession does. And nationwide, a lot of massage therapists boards have a cooling off period. And what I mean by that is, a therapist has a client and they determine that maybe they have a love interest of some sort, and terminate that relationship in writing, or make sure it's definitely terminated, that therapist relationship. And then these other states have what they call a cooling off period. And it ranges really from 6 months to 2 years, depending on what state you're at. Oregon does not have that. We just say terminate the relationship. Okay, you cannot have a relationship like that with a client. So it's broadly written on purpose. I think the board didn't necessarily want to get restricted in the past with that. So it came up, I don't know, several months ago, the board asked me to do the research. And I have done the research, and I've written a white paper again for you guys, kind of talking about what Oregon does, what our rules say, and it compares it to other states like California, Washington, Texas, Florida. And like I said, some states like Texas, it's not addressed in their law. Some states like Washington have a 2-year waiting period for sexual relationships, 1 year for post for any other kind of relationship. It defines dual relationships a little better than we do in Oregon. And then it compares us with other health professions, like nursing, chiropractic, behavioral health, physical therapy. There's some comparisons there for you to look at. I also did kind of a gap analysis to say that how can we strengthen our rules to make it a little better. You know, Oregon, so some of the gaps we don't have a waiting period after a termination of care before a romantic relationship. We have some insufficient clarity around digital and electronic communication boundaries. That's kind of a new thing, and we wrote our rules last, you know, texting and Facebooking and all that stuff was not a big thing. So we're kind of moot on that point. We have a vague definition of dual relationships. It's there, but it's a little vague. And we have no specific protocol regarding financial dependence or gifts or anything like that. That's a potential gap. It doesn't necessarily need to be one. So came up with all of this. There's kind of a couple of ways to go here, I think. The board can decide that, you know, they think that our rule is sufficient, it works. You know, the board is very clear that you can't engage in a relationship with a client. I think it's written in our rule, and I know it's written in our rule, in our law, I'm pretty sure too. And as long as they terminate that relationship, then they can continue on. That's one way you can go. You can say, we think it's sufficient. The other way you can go is to say, okay, let's review the entire thing. Let's send it to committee. Let's talk about a waiting period. What is that waiting period going to be? That'll be some committee work. You know, it could be anywhere from, 30 days to 2 years. I mean, depending on how the board wants to address that. You could also have the committee strengthen our language if they want, if you want to, or leave it as it is. So, I mean, it's up to you to decide how you want to do this. It's coming to you because you asked me to do the research, and here it is.
I'll add, if I may, that I would ask the board to seriously consider one of the things that Director Ward brought up that I don't think is covered very well at all in our current rules, and that's that digital and electronic communication. Almost every complaint we have about an OMT pursuing a client for a romantic relationship starts with a text message. And so I think if the board was able to define a rule that said that electronic communications would be kept strictly to the professional relationship, or at least discuss it, because every one of them is coffee and then trouble.
That's a tough one.
It's tricky.
It's a tricky one, and it may be, like we talked about, it may be a committee thing, but you'd have to give us some specific guidelines about what you want them to do if you send it to any committee.
I just thought of something too. We have some LMTs that have dual practices too, multi-practices, life coaching and things like that, where that kind of communication might be necessary.
I have really had some sleeplessness on this week, because I think in some ways, as somebody who taught ethics and who's sat on the board and gone through this for years now, a lot of our ethics and communication training in the massage industry are very focused on some outdated paradigms that are not sensitive to culture, race, modern technology, marginalized groups. And I think people who work in very small communities and who work with marginalized, very specific groups, really heavy-handed directive language can be incredibly paralyzing in those communities and can make things really challenging. So English as second language communities, queer and trans communities, all sorts of groups. So I feel like we oftentimes don't have the best, most up-to-date language about it. And when I have worked with people who are experts at teaching cultural competency and ethics and communication, and who were working on textbooks about those subjects in psychology and cultural communication, they said one of their biggest concerns is that ethics and communication needs to be something that is updated the most frequently and fluidly, and it has to be responsive. And so sometimes I worry that when we start writing in a lot of language, that we hamstring ourselves because we can't anticipate what's coming up with technology. We can't anticipate what is happening necessarily culturally, and I think COVID taught us how quickly we can have a seismic shift in our ethics and technology and the way we build communities and the way we find clients in businesses and have to teach in school. And I don't know that, I feel like this is something that has so many potential unintended consequences that it would really need to go, I would really like to see some committee research and feedback, because I feel like we could really do ourselves some harm in getting where we want to go. We want to protect the public. We want safe LMTs. We want to clarify questions, but I don't want to make problems for us by, say, putting in no text messaging or no using this social media, and it's obsolete by the time we get the rule through. And we've done something where our therapists come back and say, this is literally the way people find businesses. This is making it so I can't communicate with my clients.
Well, not text messaging, just not messaging beyond the professional scope.
But the lines between professional and non-professional have changed so much in the last 10 years of what clients expect. Like, there's a lot of, there are clients who don't want to support a business if they don't know something about you personally. So the old never tell a client about your political beliefs. Well, there are clients who won't come see you if you aren't willing to say that. There are clients who won't come see you if you won't disclose your vaccination status. Like, there are all sorts of changes that have happened, and I just feel like this is something so big that a committee needs to talk through this, probably more than we can. Those are my 2 cents. Like, I would like to see this go to committee and really get hashed out. I feel like this is a big one, but what's anybody else feeling? Maybe I'm hyper paranoid on it.
We haven't had many of these cases, client relationship. I know of a few where it was just like, yeah, surrender the license, oh, cross that line, there we go, we got. So we already, I'm thinking, and I've read through the rules again, and the standard for Jeff is professional conduct or discipline therapeutic relationship. We're all adults.
So I agree with you. I agree with you to a degree. I mean, the thing is that do we need to fix it to fix a problem versus are we fixing it to anticipate a problem? Or, I mean, you got to decide what you're fixing it for, or does it need to be fixed? I mean, there's no rule, law, anything that's going to stop everybody from doing everything.
Right.
So that's the first consideration, right? There's going to be a percentage of people that no matter what you do, whatever you write down, they're going to do it anyway. And I think that's the percentage that we're dealing with now. It's not rampant. Okay. So is there a problem? Might we get one person or 2 people to not do it by strengthening the rules? Maybe.
Do they even read the rules?
Well, the other part of it is, do we need to update the definitions that we have to stay ahead of what's going on in the world right now? That's another consideration, because you always want to try to be ahead of what's going on versus trailing way behind. So if you look at the language and you say, you know what, this language is archaic and it really needs to be looked at in 2025, maybe looked at with the clairvoyance of 2026, try to get an idea and look ahead and rewrite this rule. If that needs to be done, then it needs to go to committee also, because the research needs to be done and things like that. If you think it's perfectly fine the way that it is, and we're not fixing anything, and it doesn't need to be updated, then just say that and we'll leave it like it is. If there's any part of that that you think that should be looked at with the eye of 2025, then I think you need to send it to committee with some clear direction on what you're wanting to accomplish there. Do you want to accomplish fixing the dual relationship issue, or are you trying to strengthen the language with regards to some of the things involved in that, like dual relationships, and things like that?
None of our language was written in a time that anticipated anything about our culture right now.
No.
And so I think if we do anything, I feel like it has to get hashed out in a committee. And I mean, maybe they bring us back something, we decide we don't want to take any action.
Absolutely.
But I don't know, I feel like this could be it might not solve the problem, but if we're going to do anything, I think the committee needs to do some research.
I have a comment about it. I thought the whole reason why we looked into it was because as a healthcare, we have a stance on it. If you go and check, I remember Maria said, "Here's our PT," she has Doug and said what the PT would do, and then they take it from there. I'm just thinking as a healthcare thing, since we don't have a state, if we can plan.
Can you maybe get a little bit closer to the speaker, because you're cutting out every once in a while? I think we got about half of that. I'm sorry to make you, we were trying to track it, but I think we got about half of that. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Much better, yeah.
I remember a few board meetings back, right before we got our healthcare person, Doug came, and Steve and Maria said, let's wait till we get our PT person and see what they do. Because we were just trying to see what other boards did. I don't think we did anything crazy. We what they take.
So Doug, do you know what the PT board does?
It's in the packet.
Yeah, it's already in the packet.
I did some research. It's in the white paper about what some of the other boards are doing.
So PT prohibits sexual contact, and they don't have a post-termination in the state of Oregon. It came from Nevada, and there was a 6-month cooling off period.
So the way language is written too, it's not, like when we say dual relationship, it doesn't just mean sexual, and a lot of the boards, that is really where they're going. For us, it could be, are you
A student.
a student teacher? Are you friends? Is this your best friend's spouse? Is it like, there's a relationship broad, and that's where I worry there could be complications, particularly with smaller communities, because it isn't strictly sexual in that language. And where, like you said, it's very clear in a lot of professions, this is what it means.
And in the smaller communities, they're unavoidable, so you can't.
Exactly. That's why I don't want to make things hard for communities where things are already hard to find resources or providers. So, Melissa, I think what you were saying is we were wondering about that, and it's all in the packet. Bob did. I think you got like 6 different boards on there.
Yeah.
My preference, I think, is to send this to committee.
I thought that's where we were going to see what they said. Like, I like the PT stance. Like, I have a colleague that is a PT, and we the state works sometimes, but we don't charge each other. And I don't, all these words, relationship, all that, it's just way too complicated.
I think if we want to refer this to committee, we need to have some direction as to what the point is. So what I'm hearing, and I'm thinking is coming out of this is, could we send direction to the committee to clarify the rules around client relationships to serve, like, to ensure the safety of the public and possibly modernize the language, just policy modernization. Because in all of our, like, the state, we have to look at things for stakeholders, right? That we're not causing undue discrimination and undue harm. Like, that's already written into stuff. So, would that be sufficient? But like, looking at this for modernization and kind of take Bob, is that?
Yeah, I think it would get you where you're looking at. The committee can look at the rules, see if there's holes in it, spend the time to do a little research on it. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good thing. Eventually eventually all the rules will be rewritten, right? I mean, just the way life works. So it's a good time, to have them looked at, and they haven't been looked at for a long time. If you look at these particular rules, I think some of these might be the original rules.
Yeah, from the 1950s.
So then we just do it, so killing two birds with one stone then. That makes sense.
Yeah, you would be sending it to the rules to review the dual relationship rules for updating them and reviewing them. And I think that's enough of a guide. Carol is the rules committee coordinator, so she can direct them on kind of what the board wants. So.
Okay, so can we get a motion?
Oh.
All of it.
Thank you, Joe.
I move to send this to the Rules Committee to reevaluate client relationship rules.
Can I get a second? Scott? All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Sent to the Rules Committee. Okay.
Sure.
Yes,
Since we're ahead of schedule, might we take a break?
I was about to say the same thing. How's 15 minutes? Would 15 minutes work?
Yeah, for me, I don't know.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I would take a break for 15 minutes.
Second.
All in favor of a break?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back in 15.
Was that hospital 13? Was that 13?
House Food, 3918.
Was that good?
Yeah, agreed.
Can I see a report?
What was it? How?
3918.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, just wait, can we pop that up so we can see it, Carol? Great. Okay, welcome back. We're just gonna go right back into our session. I believe we're on facility permit.
Correct. All right. So, 2013, or the 2012 legislative session, the board, before 2012 legislative session, the board had no authority over unlicensed facilities. There was nothing in our statute that allowed us to go after unlicensed facilities, so we were targeting practitioners. This is back to the human trafficking and illegal massage facilities. Not all of them were human trafficking, I want to say that. of the illegal or illicit massage facilities. The board went to the legislators and said, we would like to license facilities. And it excludes licensed massage therapists or licensed healthcare professionals from having to obtain a facility permit. It's only those individuals who are not within that realm, a licensed healthcare professional, have to get a facility permit. So the idea behind it was, we're gonna bring them in so they are now, even if they're unlicensed, we have authority over them to be able to issue them sanctions and things like that. Going after the owners, not just the workers. It's a great idea, it is still a great idea, but it's lost its effectiveness. I'll give you a little bit more history. Back when we got this law, the business model of the illicit facilities was to practice massage under the guise of reflexology. So you have these reflexology shops everywhere. Because our board exempts reflexology, they would open up and say they were doing only reflexology, but they were actually doing massage. We had no authority over them. We go after the actual practitioner and not the business owner. We found out it was the business owners that were causing this problem. They were importing people from China and other countries under work and immigration visas, and they were doing, it's not human trafficking, it's labor trafficking, where they were making them work all day long and not paying them and making them work for tips. So the board was trying to combat that. The idea behind the facility permit was every facility that's owned by a non-licensed healthcare professional has to get a facility permit. We sent out letters to a couple thousand, ended up getting 600, however many it was, facility permits, maybe 300 initially. Ends up being 4 or 5 now. What we did do is make it a renewable facility permit. It was a one-time thing. You can see what the problem is with that. So these facilities that are illegal, the legitimate facilities, we get our facility permit, host it, everything's good. The illicit facilities would get their facility permit, they would not notify us of a change of address, they would sell the business with a facility permit. You know, and so we've got somebody who got no idea who owns the business now. So we're not able to track any of these facilities.
They close.
Yeah, or they close and they don't tell us, so there's a facility coming out for a business that doesn't exist anymore, because they're not required to. There was nothing in our statute that requires them to renew or update us or give us any current information. That is not working for us anymore because we're unable to, the facility is ineffective in helping us combat human trafficking. We took a look at our statute, Jeff and I, and we found out that when they wrote the statute, they wrote it in all locations where it can be a renewable facility permit. Our rules make it a one-time purchase. Actually, our rules don't even say anything about a one-time purchase. You have to get it. It was just brought forward as a one-time purchase and not a renewable thing. I think it's time that the board look at making our facility permits a renewable permit. Making individuals who own these properties submit updated information when they do, just like some massage service actually, right? They have to update their address, they have to let us know information, their CDs, all that type of stuff, of course, would be CDs for facilities, but they have to give us who the new owner is, you know, their new information, where the facilities have all that stuff. And if they don't renew, then it lapses. It just makes sense to do that. Strengthening, we've been doing a lot of outreach. And a few of them done that. They contacted us and said, well, if you train your well, they would help us because, you know, we're making you do this, and you guys just let them get a facility that sit there for 15 years. Their facility permits right now were issued in 2013 when it came back in January 1st. They've never been updated. We haven't done any research on it. It's in the file somewhere.
I want to interrupt. I need to interrupt because we're having a sound issue. Those of us who are remote, we can't hear most of what you're saying. It almost sounds like you've got a short in your equipment now. It's really choppy and buzzy.
Okay,
We're getting the.
sorry, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, yes, yeah. Keep talking.
Okay, I will speak up a little bit and I'll do the shorter version. I think that the board needs to look at making our facility permits renewable.
Excellent, please, person, Karen.
Can you hear me? Okay. So, facility permits. Okay, we're back. Anyway, I'd like the board to consider making facility permits renewable. I think it would be a great investigation tool for us, and it's more consistent with what licensees have to do. Facility permits are licensed, they're a permit, but they're considered, something that we issue, and I think they should be renewed. That would require language being written because the law allows us to do it. If you look at our laws. So we don't have to do anything with the law, we don't have to go to the legislators or anything. What we have to do is write rules, making those permits renewable in whatever kind of guidance we want to do. However, we want to get those renewable. So, I mean, they have to submit a new address, do we want to be consistent with LLDs have to go through, things like that. So, that's the discussion I think very important.
Okay, so what you're asking is that we send this to the committee um, to research making our facility permits renewable. I'm wondering if, as a part of that, could we have a look at the language of facility permits? I know from teaching it, it is one of the hardest things as written to get people to understand how that works, and doesn't stop a lot of
I'm
questions about who.
sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but anybody who's not in the big room, we really can barely hear anything. It's extremely choppy. We're hearing like a few seconds between each sound. It's unintelligible almost. Is that true for you?
I think it gotta be the Wi-Fi, not the.
Can we have them call in?
Yes, can you call
Instead?
Can you all call in?
Call in.
I can turn up the mic too.
I don't think turning it up if it doesn't have bandwidth is.
And she sounds just as choppy when she's talking.
Yes.
Yeah, she sounds as choppy to us as I think we are to her.
Melissa, are you able to call in on your phone? Let's just see if that's better.
Okay. I could also,
Can you call in?
I could use my phone as a hotspot. Why don't I do that? I got reliable internet on my end though. But I'll,
I don't think it's your internet, it's us.
I think it's our internet.
No, I turn my, if you're not using it, turn yours off. It might help everybody. It might help give some more bandwidth.
I'm not even.
Turn mine. Mine's off.
Okay, all right, Carol.
okay. I'm back. I'm using my phone as a hotspot instead
That's
of using my
fine.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Okay, so, can you hear us now?
So far, so good. There's a member of the general public too, Daniel Steinmetz, that's having the same experience.
I appreciate you letting us know. Unfortunately, I think this is an issue of bandwidth, and we keep restarting, there's just not anything we can do to make it better. It coming in and out. I apologize to everybody who's struggling with it.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, so let's just recap. Can we so what we need is a committee to evaluate making our facility permits renewable, and can we add to that instruction to look at the language around facility permits?
I think it needs to be done, yes.
Okay. Yes, Jeff.
One of the things I think we didn't mention that could be clarified by this process too, is the background process for the applicants on the facility permit. We don't currently require fingerprinting. So that would be something that the committee should look at to try to bring and to simplify things for staff and for licensees, is to direct the committee to attempt to mirror the massage license process and application process to the facility process and application process, as consistent as we can possibly make, and would relieve things and simplify things for staff as well, including the background process.
Okay, so unless there's any objection, could we get a motion to send this to committee to research and review the facility permit process?
So moved.
Scott, can you second that? All in favor of sending facility permits to committee?
Aye.
Carol?
I think she's frozen. Oh, there she is.
Carol, can you hear us again?
Twice the count.
Okay. All opposed? Okay. Carol, can you hear us? Okay, can you unmute Carol? We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I can hear you now.
Okay, did you hear the vote or miss the vote?
I did not hear the vote. Was this the vote to direct the committee to draft rules around making facility permits renewable?
Yes.
I voted in favor.
Are you in favor of moving? In favor, okay. Motion carries to move to committee.
Thank you, Director Rutherford. I think this has been a good important one for your story.
Okay. Predetermination form use.
So, 2 legislative sessions ago, legislators came up with a predetermination law. It's not called that, but it's what we call it with boards and commissions. And basically, this predetermination law says that before going to a trade school, individuals can petition a board. Individuals with a criminal record or criminal background can petition a board and get basic pre-approval before they go to school. Now that pre-approval is at the time of approval, it's not binding. You know, it is if they don't mess up in between their school time, you know, or nothing new happens. So we're mandated to use that, implement that law. To that end, we had to have a petition, we call it a form, it's the same thing, it's called a petition. And Jeff wrote one up. I took a look at it, we made some changes to it, Jeff did a great job. And we would like the board to review it and approve it for use. It's not generally necessary for us to do this because it's an administrative function and I could approve it myself. But I want to make sure that if the board has any input, they want to add something or see something different, then I wanted to give you the opportunity to see what it looked like. And go ahead and approve it if you think it's good. We do.
Did anyone have any concerns or comments about the predetermination form?
I read it, it looks really straightforward, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, I don't see any issues with it. Nobody. Okay, if nobody has any issues with it, can we get a motion to implement the predetermination form as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Scott, that's second. All in favor of approving the predetermination form?
Right.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I do have one thing to add, and it's under legislative update, so I think we're good without, this is part of it. The legislative session, like I said, is going to be going into the session again. They're going to be reviewing our laws. I think it's important, and I heard some discussion about this, that our scope of practice, which is the definition of massage in Oregon, be reviewed. We have a scope of practice committee, and I think that to make the deadline for this next legislative session, this would be something you would, I think, if you're interested in reviewing the scope of practice for massage therapists, that you should activate that committee now. It's already activated. That you should move that to committee now and start that process so we have something available for the legislators if the board wants to take gymnastics and other things out of their scope of practice and update it to a more modern version. So I just wanted to bring that out.
Okay, and because you said it's under legislative, we don't need to amend anything, we can just go ahead and.
Yep.
We have talked about doing this with scope for a while, we have the committee in place. So at this point, can we get a motion to move scope of practice to committee for review?
So moved.
And then Scott's gonna second it? I'm gonna do a t-shirt today. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question? Can
Yes.
I be a part of that committee?
Tisha, what?
Be part of that committee.
Can you ask that again, please?
Becky and Carol are the liaisons.
Yeah, the scope of practice.
Melissa, can you,
She wants to be part of that committee.
I don't know if she wants to be a liaison or she wants to be on the.
Oh, you can't be on the committee
But she can attend, right, the meetings? That's not a,
without saying anything. It's a public meeting. But I mean, I suppose you could attend it.
as an LMT, right?
We can't have a quorum.
I think you're starting to worry about a quorum because we already have 2 liaisons.
What's our number for quorum?
4.
4? Melissa, I'm wondering, did you want to participate in the committee or did you just want to observe the committee?
Participate?
Yeah, we can't, unfortunately.
Okay.
And even if Carol and I go, it's just to clarify the direction of the board. We don't actually participate as members of the committee.
Correct, you just sit and listen.
Yeah.
What you can do, Melissa, is when the committee does some research and come back, you can have your notes available and say, this is what I'd like to see, if you have some things you would like to have because nothing gets approved unless the board approves it, right? And so when it comes back from committee, you'll be able to ask all your questions and give your input into what the committee comes up with, and even say, I'd like it to go back to committee because I have these ideas.
Okay.
So the liaison will be here, will say, if you wanted them to specifically look at reflexology, just don't, like, we'll direct the committee to go back and look at that specific thing. So that's how we get involved with the committee.
Well, it just it went so fast before, and I'm doing this remotely. So then by the time I process it, I'm like, wait a minute. So I apologize.
No, it's
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, that was our predetermination form. I think that is it for our rules. Okay, fantastic. Then we're gonna go ahead and move into public comments and correspondence. I want to clarify, I did not see any correspondence, is that correct? Yeah. Okay, because we do have some public, I will go ahead and, read us into that. Public comment is limited to matters on the public meeting agenda or otherwise relevant matters when they come before this agency. Comments will not be allowed that are longer than 2 minutes, or disrupt the agency's conduct of its business. Any member of the public who would like to address the board, please turn your camera on now. When called upon by the chair, please turn your microphone on and state your name and license number for the record. And again, please keep comments 2 minutes or less. I'm going to start with people in the room. Is there anyone in person who would like to speak?
I wanted to say something, but it doesn't have anything to do with the agenda.
Does it have to do with anything about massage that comes before our massage board?
Sure.
Okay. Then just go ahead and state your name and license number and.
Oh, geez, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
We already have it.
Yeah, I've never memorized it. Tina Hammerline, 9280. It was kind of a shock to me when, and I know everyone's struggling financially, and of course, hearing the budget thing as far as the board goes. So I'm getting ready to renew my license, and of course, I had stuff in place, but I got online, and to have it jump from 200 to 270, which wasn't in the budget, when usually over the years, it's gone like maybe $5, $10, $15, that was quite a shock. And I just wanted to say that because I've heard from other LMTs that I've talked to that it was like, wow. And most of them are younger and they've just started. And of course I guess it didn't affect them because like I'm trying to kind of semi-retire myself. And so I had everything like budgeted out. And I just wanted to reflect where it was like, maybe it was in some board minutes. I've always been pretty good about reading minutes online and stuff, and maybe it had been somewhere, or maybe this just got decided, but I just wanted to say where it's like, I feel like it's kind of been unfair in certain ways, but that's one thing, it's a statement, nobody needs to say anything about it. And another thing is, as far as like younger LMTs, I miss getting the borderline in the mail. And I know that's another financial thing where it's like you've probably saved some money. But I talk to younger LMTs and they go, what? There's like a newsletter? And I go, yeah, it's online, but you gotta like look for it or, I myself, it's like, I know a lot of them aren't getting information because they just don't know not to look for it. And we were getting them like every 3 months, 1,000 years ago, and now I think it's like maybe twice a year, and you don't know really when it's coming out. And sometimes I just kind of forget to look. And I guess I just need to get a little more on the stick and just get on the board website more often. But I'm kind of concerned more with the younger LMTs not getting the information that I think they should be getting. Because I'll say something to them and they'll go, what? Huh? And
I don't mean to cut you off, but we do have a time limit. So
sure, is that 2 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
It goes really, really fast.
Okay, so yeah.
I appreciate the feedback. I think we would usually respond to this with, did you want to say anything?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna make it real quick.
Yep.
So the board went almost 6 years without raising any fees. It was during the COVID era. We didn't want to raise any fees. In fact, we cut a lot of fees out. We were trying to do what's best for LMTs at the time. And because we couldn't see raising fees during the COVID era, then everybody told us, can you give us a recovery period? We're like, okay, well, we'll give you a recovery period too. We won't raise any fees. So, it's cumulative. There was a lot of information out about the budget. In fact, we opened at least 2, maybe 3 comment sessions for the public that we posted. And got a lot of comments, we really certainly did. And so, yeah, I know it's very, very difficult. But it was necessary to keep the board running. With regards to the newsletter, you're right. We did got some feedback, and we found that people preferred an electronic method, which may be contrary to what you hear from people. And then it did save us a substantial amount of money, which at the time that we switched over, we needed to do that. So we had to try to save money. We try to save money every time that we can.
Don't we email them
We
when the new one comes out?
Yeah.
So how would they not know?
Well,
But that's what it's on.
Okay.
So they don't know, right? A lot of times, and this is really, really, I hope that you will take an opportunity to educate these new LMTs. Now, when they get something from the board, they should not send an email saying, remove me from the list. They should at least read it before saying, remove me from the list. I get remove me from the list from just meeting notices, rules, fees, especially that fees we're talking about, remove me from the list. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe they're confusing the board with, I understand you get bombarded with all these mailers, but please look at what you're getting. Because I'm a huge proponent of getting people involved in conversation, especially when it comes to public forum like this. I want you to be a part of this conversation. I want you to be a part of what's going to affect you as a licensee. And as Paul mentioned, we are at high school. We cannot raise fee for as long as, we've raised fee once. I've been here more than 15 years old. I've been here a long time. And we've raised fees once. And this was absolutely necessary. I understand that it is a hard time for everybody. But when it comes to that publication, I send out things and I get removed from the list, and that hurts. I will call them and say, do you know what list you're asking me to remove? I cannot remove you. I will say that. I say, I have to let you know what's happening, what's going to affect you.
Legally.
Yes, it's in statute. I cannot remove you from the list. I'm sorry, you will have to continue to receive or lost me if you lost.
So then they put us in the spam filter,
Yes.
where they don't get their
So,
Renewal notification and
yeah, so, but bottom line is, we are.
I just wanted to say, I miss getting, the borderline in the mail. But, yeah.
I also just want to say we do have some conversations coming up about some of the borderline formatting and like how we're communicating. So I don't recall if it's either tomorrow or at our next meeting. Next meeting, there are going to be some conversations about that, and there are going to be some opportunity for LMT input on how we're doing some of that stuff. So if you do have interest in it, please kind of keep it on the radar because there will be some public comment.
Yes.
Opportunities.
And we don't mind going back to mailing them. We just need to raise the funds to be able to do that. And fees are the way to do it.
So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to anyone online who would like to speak. Right now, let's say Daniel. And I think that's the only person who flipped on the camera. So Daniel, go ahead. Daniel, we can't hear you. It looks like his mic is on.
Yeah.
Are you hearing us okay?
No.
He needs to go and switch some mic, doesn't he?
Oh, yes, yes.
Just tell me.
Hey Daniel, can you hear us now? Not. Yeah, okay. I think you may need to switch the mic on your end. Mhm.
Can you,
There we go. Mhm.
okay? I'll say hi. Should get it tighter, and people from a distance are having trouble being heard, so I can abandon this if this is not working. Let's see. A few weeks ago, I was looking through the director's report and had a positive report on the question and answer that the board did back in June, I believe. And I was on that call and I thoroughly enjoyed the call. I thought it was so time really well spent. If I say I was giddy with it, it'd sound nerdy, but I was pretty thrilled, lighthearted. So I don't know if that's in the conversation because I can tell the board has a whole lot they have to deal with. My recommendation or proposal or request, something like that, would be that it be made regular, that it become built into this communication system because I thought it had so many pluses and I couldn't see any minuses other than maybe people spending time online. I I would love it if it was twice a year or four times a year would be wonderful to me too. I feel like it also has the built-in uh, ability to fuel question and answer borderline pages or on the borderline, did you know? You know, because you're hearing things really directly from the licensees out here in the field that may not feed in otherwise. So it just seems like a really rich opportunity to not have it be a one and done, but to really take advantage of the possibilities on that. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah. Yeah, Daniel, I agree with you 110%. You know, the board had mandated me to do some outreach, with the licensees. And we came up with this Q&A session. In fact, it's in the board strategic plan. So the idea, we wanted to get an idea of what kind of response we would have. And we had some great feedback, including from you. I appreciate you participating in that. I remember you in that meeting. It's something that I think we should do, board staff should do. And the board has been interested in trying to have a few of the board members on there too. Make sure we don't get a quorum, but at least have a couple of board members attend. So it's something that I want to try to do at least twice a year, but maybe I'm looking at quarterly, might be even a better idea. So it's definitely, in the future, it's going to be happening. I'm hoping very soon we'll have our next one. I want to get through this business meeting and get all this stuff going in different committees. And then I'll sit down with a cocktail and we'll schedule another one of those and maybe a couple more out from there. So thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate that, Daniel. Thank you. And thank you for attending.
Absolutely, thank you. And is there anybody else joining who wants to speak? I don't see anyone. Okay, that concludes our public comment session. We're gonna go ahead and move into announcements. First announcement, just want to update everyone that I will not be attending the FSNTD annual meeting to serve as the delegate this year. Doug is going to do that, so Doug will be our delegate. And let's see, the only other announcement I have is that our next meeting will be tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, once again here and virtually. Following that, our meeting will be back in Salem on November 17th at 9 o'clock. And we'll be back at Hampton in Suites in Salem. People are always welcome to come, even though we're in Salem, and the public can join virtually. I think our technology tends to be a little smoother, but technology always has some hiccups, and we can't always fix them, so we love for people to actually come in person. if you can, ever get the time off work to do that. Any other announcements?
I would just like to add on to that. If any of the LMPs that can hear me are in the Salem area and ever want to stop by the office, we get very few people that stop by the office, so we would certainly love to have you, show you the office, answer any questions you have. Always welcome, please do that. We would love to have you. So.
Yeah, we used to have more people show up at meetings, and
We're getting
we
back
love,
there.
yeah, we love when people do show up. So it's just like go out to the public. Anybody who's watching this on replay later, like, please feel free to come to meetings. It is wonderful to interact with our LMP. Maria, did you have an announcement?
I just wanted to thank our audience for coming. It's really nice to see your faces and to have you attend and talk to you in between and hear whatever you have to say. It's freaking fantastic.
It's nice to have you out here.
Yeah, so if there are no,
Let's hear it for Grants basketball.
I was gonna say,
They got more
it's been
audience coming than
fantastic.
any further.
Yeah, you win. You so far win for attendance. Fantastic.
It forward.
We don't have any other announcements at this point? Okay, then, if I'm reading straight, we can go ahead and get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, wow.
So look.
Oh, Scott's got this one.
A second.
Maria and Scott, all in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, the meeting is adjourned at 2:32 PM.
Back tomorrow at 9.
Just let her, let her hit the recording.
Yeah.
Okay, I take you.